what the topic for this morning's meeting is working together on a plan, and I'm just going to go really very quickly through the plan sharing feature. It's something that you probably all used before, but I thought we could do a reminder of it and also go from there on to a topic that it's worth discussing because it keeps coming up over and over again in individual discussions between our team and organizational administrators. It's worth discussing. Okay, I'm gonna share the screen and start with the first slides. So I'm just going to go very quickly through today's program. I hope you can all stay for the discussion because your input will be very useful. But you can stay as long as you like, and then or drop in and out. It's up to you. So for the first 10-15 minutes, I'm just going to give you a very quick introduction and an update from the team. Then we'll go on with a quick overview of the plan sharing and co-editing feature. You can ask questions based on that. We can have a very quick coffee break and then come back for the discussion. Who owns the plans? Essentially, that question is, if you like, who owns the data? So the research outputs feature, what you wanted is a lot more guidance on screen as to what the research outputs feature is for. When users should complete research outputs for their plan. And in general, you felt that ideally research outputs should be completed towards the end of the project. And it isn't a mandatory feature. And you wanted us to make this visible. And I'm going to go on to the next slides. If you remember, this is what the research outputs feature looked like on a project. And you wanted at the top of the screen here some explanatory notes to give this kind of context as to what research outputs feature is for and when it should be completed. And you wanted this to be ideally customizable by institutions. So that bit of text that appears at the top should be customized by each institution. This can be done, but we waited to see what other features are being developed in roadmap in general, because we saw at some point there were discussions about also making this feature not only customizable, having additional text at the top, explanatory text, but also perhaps having the possibility to be switched on or off by institutions. Now, that hasn't moved forward, and I don't think it will. So chances are that we will roll it out as it is, but with this additional text. Joachim also said that if we are to add additional information, people don't necessarily, we shouldn't add it to the help page. You add a minimal amount of text to the help page for the user. But he felt that perhaps, this is what the add new research output screen looks like. Perhaps we should have guidance here in the same way as we have for the right plan section. So institutions should be able to add guidance, so users wouldn't rely entirely on the help page. So I mean, these are doable things, but it's worth considering whether we proceed like this. So chances are that we'll do a bit more development and we'll have another meeting with the small group previously interested in this and show them how we wish to proceed. We'll start small. I think that what is going to happen is we're going to do first the text to go here at the top of the page. By here, I mean here. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Okay, and we'll roll with that, and then in the long term we will develop the guidance to go at the side of the screen for universities to add it. Okay, I think that's enough about the research outputs. We started a bit late, and we may be overshooting the slot by quite a bit. So another feature that we are working on is integration with RSpace. Maybe one of my developers could insert the link to RSpace in the chat. So Research Space, maybe some of you are familiar with it. It's essentially a data repository. An integration with RSpace would mean that users who have data management plans will be able to cross-reference the data management plan with the research data. And this would be really useful because you know, the users wouldn't have to enter the same information on two different systems. They would just be able to say, here's my research data for this particular project. And by the way, here is the data management plan relating to it. For this, we will have to develop an API. And we've already had a few introductory meetings with our space team. And we are currently working on a specification. And the next meeting is this Thursday this week, so I'll have to work a few nights on finishing the specification document. We'll keep you posted on this, but I'm quite excited about this feature. I don't know how many of you were able to attend the RDA co-located event on the 20th of March. If you remember, that's why we didn't have a user group in March, because we had a co-located event. But if you didn't attend, please note that the slides are and recordings are available online. You can access them from the event webpage on the DCC website. Forthcoming events, we're planning a user group in mid-July. I think I'm going to have, I know that it's holiday season, but it's still important that we have that meeting in July to discuss priorities for the academic session 2023-2024. What we agreed with the roadmap team, and you will see what the priorities are, is the redesign of the Create New Plan workflow, versioning for data management plans, the machine actionable grant number field, and there's now a big queue of people waiting. Initially, it started with the DMPonline. Hello to the DMPonline team. I know that Tuya, I think, is here. But there are now a few more people have approached us and asked for this, and an improved feedback process. Yeah, so an improved feedback process. At the moment, the feedback process is a series of email notifications, really, but we're hoping to make this a proper feedback process built into the tool. We're also thinking of an additional event targeted at funders. Currently, we work with funders in a very light-handed way. There are exceptions, the Dutch Founding Council, for example. And every now and then we approach them, could we please update your contact details and the templates. But we want to have a close relationship with funders. We want them to have a bigger input on how the tool should be shaped and how it should work. So I'll approach individual funders, including NWO, the Dutch Founding Council, and arrange a meeting. It should happen this summer. We would have loved it to happen in July, but if we have this user group mid-July, chances are they'll want to push this a bit further into August. I don't know yet, but I'll approach a few people that we work more closely with and see how they feel. Okay, so the next one is the quick demonstration of the DMPonline plan sharing and co-editing feature. And this is again down to me. It's going to be a live demo. Okay. So what you see here is something that you're very familiar with, is my dashboard. And I've got a few plans here. I've created one for today. It's working together on a plan. This, by the way, is on the DMPonline development server. So that's why you won't see as yet, for example, the research outputs feature. So here's my the plan. I'm going to be working on sharing. demonstrating the share function. I think I'll start by first saying that there is first the share function, and then where we share the plan with collaborators, people who actually help us co-edit the plan. And there is also a function for adding contributors. These are somewhat different. Contributors don't necessarily have to co-edit the plan. So I'll first start by sharing the plan. And I'm going to start sharing the plan with myself. You're familiar with the screen. In the screen, you can, in addition to sharing, you can set plan visibility. So there are 3 visibility settings. One is private. It can be seen by me, collaborators, and administrators of my organizations. By this, I mean people who provide feedback, people with organizational administrative rights. You can also do it, put the setting on organization level. So anyone, any user at my organization can see my plan, and you can also do public. For public plans, these are visible under the, let me just see if I can make, right. So for public, you will be able to see public plans appear under reference and the public DMPs. Again, you should be familiar with this feature. I'm not going to click there because I want to maximize my screen again. But yeah, so public plans can be seen by everybody. So I'm now going to invite collaborators to contribute, write my plan with me. And collaborators have different level of permissions. They can be co-owner of the plan. By being co-owner of the plan, you can also change visibility settings. You can invite other co-owners. Some can only be editors, some can only view the plan, read only. So I'm going to make myself co-owner, and I'm going to share this plan with me again, so that I don't bombard Glenys or other co-workers with my spam. So you can see I'm going to I'm going to make this plan. I don't know. I'm going to give her the settings of co-owner. Okay, submit, and notice, I get a notice at the top of the screen. The plan has been shared with Diana Sisu at yahoo.co.uk. What the, now you're going to see all of my spam. What the other user receives is an email notification. Let me see if I can show you. I've just been, and this email notifications is sent to the recipient of the plan. The plan I've shared with diana.sisu@yahoo.co.uk, and this user has just been notified that a plan has been shared with her. Now, I'm not going to click on here because what's going to happen, since I'm logged in as myself, I'm going to go back to my own login. So I've just opened an incognito window, and I'm going to click on here and copy the link. This happens in my case. I'm having to do it in my case because I'm already logged in as diana.sisu@ed.ac.uk. But to the other user, the recipient at the other end, they would just click in and they would be taken to the login page. You need to sign in before continuing, right? So I already have an account.
So you're not sharing, sorry, Diana, you're not sharing that. We're seeing still your email, just in case you're in the incognito window. It's not.
I'm in an incognito window. All right, sorry about this.
Sorry.
Okay, in that case, I have to stop sharing and see if I can share the whole screen. Yeah, I knew this was going to be. Okay, so share the whole screen. Go to the incognito window. Can you see it?
Perfect.
Okay, and I'm just going to sign in. You have to be a bit slow.
Diana, do you have that account actually in the
Yes, I do. I do.
It couldn't be the case that you didn't.
Sorry. There we go. And excuse me. And as you can see, it's working together on a plan has been shared with me. And I can see that my role is co-owner. I can do lots of actions with this plan. I can edit, I can share it, I can download it, or I can just view it and edit it. I'm not going to go and demonstrate, but you can see that because I'm a co-owner, I can continue and share it myself. There is also a list on the plan, manage your collaborators, and you can see it's me, the original owner, and the person I've shared with, which is diana.sisu@yahoo.co.uk, and their roles. So this is essentially, I hope you will agree, very simple. As the original owner of the plan, another thing I can do if I log in as myself is actually go and remove people I've shared the plan with. I wouldn't necessarily want to do it now, but I'll show you towards the end that that's another feature. You can always tidy up your list of collaborators. Now, why we need collaborators? When we initially set up the data structures in this tool, we thought of this tool as in the same way researchers work on a research grant application. They work together and they put that grant application together and they submit it together. And they could be at a variety of universities, institutions spread all over the world. And the data management plan works in the same way. Several collaborators from several universities edit this plan. One of them submits it, downloads it, and submits it together with their research grant application. Initially, when, the DMPonline is one of the earlier tools when we're still trying to encourage users to complete data management plans. At the time, not many funders were insisting on people having data management plans with their grant applications. Now it's more or less mandatory for most grant applications. And we envisage that these data management plans will be completed at grant application stage. Now I'm being told that as well as having, as well as being mandatory to complete a data management plan with a research grant, I'm told that actually most researchers are required to fill in a data management plan towards the end of the project. So I think that's why it's urgent that we do plan versioning so that people know what they've submitted with the grant application perhaps and what they have at the end of the project. So we're very aware of that. Now, I thought I would very quickly mention the contributors. I'm sorry if you hear beeps for my email coming in. So contributors are somewhat different, and I'm going to add a contributor. I think here I can add Glenys because she's not going to get notified of anything. I can add email address. Okay. And I can add affiliation. She's from the Digital Curation Center. And as you can see, I can add various roles. The good thing about it is there are, there is guidance on mouse over as to what you want to, what each of these individuals, what their roles are. So I'm going to add her as a principal investigator, and I'm going to do save. Now, the difference between collaborators, the people you share the plan with, and contributors is that contributors don't necessarily have to co-edit and write the plan. These are people with formal roles in the project, and when you download the plan and include the project details cover sheet, okay, I'm going to download the plan. Can you still see my screen? Okay, yes. You will see Glenys here listed as principal investigator. So that is basically the role of the screen. It isn't it isn't to share the plan and add co-editors. That is the difference between them. Some people have said you know, that it is perhaps a bit confusing, that we should have thought of a better way of making distinctions between adding contributors and sharing plans with collaborators. We welcome suggestions on how to go about that. Oops, don't tell me I have to destroy my screen. Okay, so I think that's my brief demonstration of the plan sharing features. Have I missed anything? Can any of my developers complete me? Is there anything else to add?
No.
No. Okay. So I'm open to questions and suggestions for improvement, or anything that you want to add. Anybody would like to talk? I can see.
Lisa did ask a question. I don't know. Do you want to, Lisa, would you like to?
Hey, Lisa. Yeah.
Hey, Diana.
Hey.
We've been in touch on this topic about the ticked box on the cover sheet, because the template we are working with is a bit separate from what the details inserted under project details are not part of the plan. If you if you click download.
Yeah, if I click download, yeah.
At least for me, you have project details already pre-selected.
Quickly just add a note about this. Diana's got our dev service running right now, and we're actually testing this feature on the dev service. So that's why you see it ticked by default in this.
I would like it to be ticked by default because we need it as part of our plan. So I was wondering if that was going to be.
It's definitely possible. Yes. This will be soon on live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Miriam, you raised hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, I did. Good morning. I was wondering because within our institute, in my experience, we don't actually provide feedback or use the contributors tab within our institutional template, because we have within the plan, in the right plan section, we also have a question where we enable the researchers to allocate roles to everyone, to all the contributors. So that's a more specific question where there's also more room to have guidance on the specific roles. So I was wondering whether other institutes actually use this tab, the contributors tab, or what are their what do they advise to the researchers? Because we don't have any advice. I ignore it usually.
So you mean you feel that this is perhaps not enough?
Yeah, it's maybe too specific.
Right.
We also have some other roles, for instance, for human subject data. We also have a monitor, for instance, project monitor, or a statistician, or there are many roles you could assign, and maybe this is too specific and sometimes not specific enough. So we have a set of roles prepared, and researchers can choose for that, and that's part of the plan, part of a question in the plan.
Sorry, can I ask a question? Would, for example, if you press other and give you the option to actually add the role, would that be something that would solve the problem?
I would guess that would result in a wild growth of all kinds of roles that researchers think are applicable, maybe. So
is this because obviously there's always the whole, would you prefer to be predefined, so have a list there and the user would just have to select, so the researcher would just have to select, or would the researcher know already if it's not there, they would know already what to
So
add.
what Marta is saying, do you want other with the freedom to enter whatever role, or do you want other with a drop-down list?
Maybe the other way around. I don't see the beneficial value of assigning these contributor roles in a separate section where you can also assign these roles in the question within the plan, because also there are also large difference. We are a UMC, so we have some specific roles prepared for medical center, for human subjects data. But I can also imagine that there are institutes that don't need these roles, and you don't have to also prepare them within this section.
Not make them mandatory.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
but maybe I missed. So it's an open question. Maybe it's not to criticize this section in the plan, but maybe I missed some beneficial value of this, and I can take this into account and adjust my feedback or adjust my advice to our researcher, maybe.
So I see that Petra agrees with you. I mean, these are very top level roles that maybe perhaps funders recognize, as the data manager, the principal investigator but when it comes to, organizational level, maybe you want a clearer set of roles. And of course, as you mentioned, some disciplines have very specific roles. Okay, that is good. I hope you guys have taken notes of this. I'm talking about to my team here, because we can look into it, either not making them mandatory at this stage, or
That's open to me, because if other institutes are use this feature and find it very useful, then it's also fine with me. But I wouldn't need this section to be mandatory.
Okay.
So
I think we probably can do both.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 This is okay. There are very interesting comments in. Some people are saying that, excuse me, people have to submit the data management plans at grant application stage is mandatory. I guess it's in response to my earlier comments about when people submit plans and how customs have changed over time. Okay.
I think Ida did ask a question. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Would you like to actually ask it?
Yeah.
It was just a short question. You showed the share function and the contributors function. And when you add the contributors, are they notified that they are listed in the DMP compared to share?
No, okay. Contributors are not. And I guess contributors are added because they know they're part of the plan. As I said, when you share the plan, you share it with the wider group of researchers. Contributors are people who have very formal, very specific roles. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, are there any other questions? What's come up? At UMIA University, we added an extra section in the plan to add details about collaborators because the info as it is now is not exportable. That's right. And you feel, and Caroline, you feel that somehow collaborators should be exportable too, just like contributors.
Yeah, because I think it's important info. So if for the whole planning of the data management, especially if it's joint programs and so on, joint projects, so that this we are lacking this in the use of this DMPonline program. So therefore we added an extra section in the plan about collaborators in the right plan section, except, and that's of course a bit. It's a bit contradictory, and it's a bit strange that you have to explain people you don't have to use this collaborator section, right? All the info that you want to have in the plan into the right plan section. So maybe that's something you could consider, that this actually can be exported as well.
Yeah,
The info that is added there.
that's
a good point. That's a good point, because that's a good point. We never considered it because collaborators could be people who I don't know, your PhD student is writing the dissertation and then they go off, then is putting their input in the plan, sorry. And then they go off, they may not necessarily be part of the project. But again,
but it feels so important because it's an extra section in the whole template.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's like the collaborators that are actually important for the management of the data or adding data or so on. So we always saw it as, like, for example, when you have big projects with different universities or different institutions also, that these are collaborators that are working together on a plan. So it's actually very important info if you look at it from this side.
Yeah, I think a bit like project details, it could be just a tick box that then people can
exactly, that would be great.
I think it's
a
good idea.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that is a good point. So we can look into that. As I said, I found the whole contributor versus collaborator also quite difficult. It could have perhaps been one screen. Yeah, I don't know. We could look into this in the long term, but it's a good point. Okay, where are we in the program? Let me just stop sharing for a moment. Okay, because I want to make sure we're not overshooting our allocated time.
Yeah, and
it's coffee time. Sorry?
If you have time, there's one last question if you want to.
Yeah, do you wanna take it while I check where we are?
So it's about, is there a way to see the history of contributors? Currently, I'm assuming this is to see if there was contributors added and then removed, and then can you see those? Is that what's the question?
Exactly.
All right. I'm assuming currently no. So when you add it, we're not keeping a history. Do you think that is something that it would be needed? It would see the case of that?
I've seen some users that are interested in this kind of information, but maybe it will be a part of versioning in the future. I don't know.
Yeah,
it could be. But why? If you remove Marta, just a moment. If you remove a collaborator, it would be at their request as well. So why would you necessarily want to see them?
I'm telling you what our users are asking about.
Right, okay.
I'm in the role of a system administrator here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, personally, that's another good point. I'm also wondering, why is it that we allowed people to be collaborators, but then they can also be removed? If you've already made an input to a plan, right? Ideally, you should always be, in a way, not accountable. It's perhaps too strong a word, but always kind of stand by a word and not necessarily be removed if you've made a contribution. Yeah, that's a good point. That also makes plan versioning a bit more difficult, because we hadn't considered that point. Keep all collaborators for every single version of the plan. Yeah,
I think it has something to do with disputes about who contributed into what.
Right. Okay. Chris?
Could be very, very private case. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's a good question. Chris?
Hi, thanks. Just to add into your comment about contributors and collaborators, I think there can be an overlap in what I've seen between the two. So, for example, a principal investigator might delegate responsibility for writing and updating a DMP to a member of the research team, and they could be another researcher, a project manager, an experimental officer, and so on. And I think what's really interesting there, I think, in the conversation is distinguishing between who is ultimately responsible for a DMP, and that's usually the principal investigator, and actually who is recorded in DMPonline as the DMP owner. And that gave rise to an interesting scenario where someone nearly a year ago, they left the university and they were the DMP owner. And that raised an issue then about how we manage that scenario. And I think the way that we dealt with it was to make sure that the DMP owner, it could have been a project manager, let's say, first, before they leave the university, they have to make sure that they have given all relevant colleagues appropriate permissions, co-owner, editor, and so on. And then the second step was to double check that the plan has at least one co-owner before they finish, because otherwise you're left with the DMP and no one has the rights to add other people or to do anything with it. So step one, make sure everyone's got the right permissions. Step two, make sure at least one person has a co-owner. And then the final step, when they left the university, was actually the owner removed the DMP from their own dashboard. And the result of that is that we have a DMP that only has co-owners. No one is actually still an owner. And I can explain that there's also potential further things to think about in that scenario. Is what if you have a data management plan that is very confidential, the nature of the research? It might be because if you only want the current research team to have access to it, because otherwise people could gain competitive insight into the research, or perhaps there's very sensitive confidential data and it explains how and where that's being stored. So do we then trust that the exiting owner will remove the DMP from their dashboard? And if they do remove the DMP from the dashboard, are we confident that they can no longer access the DMP, even if they know what its URL is? I'm hoping the answer to that one is yes. But I think just to go back up to the higher level, I think there is that overlap between collaborators and contributors.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about this. We can bring the scenario back in the discussion because it comes back into data ownership. Okay. And very quickly, I forgot to do something before we go for our brief coffee break. Dawn, do you want to say hi? Because I introduced you, but people didn't get to see your face.
Sorry. Yeah, I've just turned my camera on, so hopefully you can see me. I'm Don Stuckey. I joined the DMPonline team last month as a systems developer. In my previous role, also within the University of Edinburgh, I was working as a SharePoint developer, so doing development in the Microsoft ecosystem. And I also have a background in student support within the University of Edinburgh and English language teaching in the UK and in other parts of the world. And yeah, that's me. Looking forward to working with you all.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a coffee break now until, I'm going to say 28 past because we overshot a little. So is it okay? Do you have enough time if we come back at 28 minutes past? Okay. Okay, so we start again at 28 minutes past. Time for us to get back. Are people here? Ready to start? Yeah. Okay, let's have a go. Discussing the data ownership issue, and I think Chris, as you saw, raised a very interesting scenario. The reason why I brought this up is because, as I mentioned, when the tool was set up, we kind of thought of DMPonline as a tool for researchers collaborating, writing together a data management plan, and researchers are the ultimate owner of the plan. If they move between universities, they leave University of Edinburgh and they go to, you know, I don't know, Barcelona, they go and change update their profile. They change their university in their profile, and you know, they update their username, which is in this case is the email address, and that's it. That's all they need to do. But they keep their University of Edinburgh plans with them. They remain the ultimate owner of the plan. Now, many universities have raised this issue with us when subscribing. They would say, well, if I decide that I'm not subscribing to the University of so DMPonline any longer, can you reassure me that you will delete all of my plans? And of course, we have to say we can't do that because you know, the researcher has a stake in the plan. The researcher is the plan owner, and we're kind of stuck in this. Stuck is perhaps the wrong word, but the university feel that as a subscriber, they should have a stake in data management and the ownership of the data management plan. And I wanted to open this topic for discussion and see how you feel about it. Who wants to have a go first? Do you think you should be able to do you think the university should demand, if they say, that's it, I want all of the plans created on my templates deleted from your database, do you think that should be the case? The researcher should have no say in it. Chris.
Hi, thanks. I'm not offering a strong opinion one way or the other on this at the moment. I'm still thinking about it. But it's just a comment, an observation. If I understand rightly, most universities have an intellectual property policy, and typically that policy would say something like, in most cases, if an employee does work at the university, it's the university that would own the IP around that. And there might be some exceptional circumstances where that's the case. So, for example, if there was a research contract with a funder, then the university might not typically necessarily own the IP. It might, but it actually depends on what's written in the contract with the funder. So I'm just flagging that I guess there's a difference between whether an institution wants to retain that ownership, or actually whether its intellectual property policy actually legally requires it to have ownership over something. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah. Any other opinions? Yes, Soile.
I have a Finnish perspective to this issue. I can state this issue in here. We have very strong copyright for researchers. We don't have same kind of IPR legislation as you may have, that researchers usually give their IPs to the university. But it has been going during recent years to that way, that lawyers and funders, funders from outside the university, they recommend that you should sign this kind of papers where you move your IPs to the university. But our researchers have not been so enthusiastic about this. So we have this kind of view that it is the researcher who owns the DMP, but I think the line is going to change in recent years, but we have a little bit different views to this.
Okay, but you think the trend is perhaps towards moving away from researcher towards institution? Yes,
I think, and we are now rewriting these papers and documents to our researchers to what kind of papers and contracts they should do when they want to move their rights, or if they want to do differently with this project. So this is very mixed right now, but I think it's going to change during years that are going to come now.
So at the moment, the data model in DMPonline suits you because the researcher owns everything.
Yes, but and we don't. We get these same kind of questions that you were saying, that they are asking that I'm changing my organization, what I'm going to do, and so on. Yeah, maybe it is the money follows the researcher. For example, if they are going to change their organization inside the Finnish universities, money goes to the different university. If it's the PI who is leaving, but it is different when there is, for example, someone who is working just for this project.
Right. Any other models? So we've heard from the UK, Finland. Any major differences, Caroline?
I'm sorry, I have to change the here. I'm not Swedish, but I'm in Sweden, and there are some other people from Sweden here. And if I say something stupid, somebody might say something. But in Sweden, it's like this: that universities are like considered as like state institutions, so they undergo the same law as like departments from their government or something. And then everything that comes in at the university as a officially paper is owned by the university, because it's under this law that if somebody wants to look at it, it has to be handed out if possible. So that would mean that also like data management plans that are created at the university are like public papers. And as I would understand it, then it would be owned by the institution. Like research data is too. I mean, research data has to remain at the institution. At first hand, it doesn't leave the institution with the researcher. Because if somebody would like to look at it it's called allmän handling, then you can actually write as a send in I'm struggling with the English, but you can like send in a paper and say that I want to look at this data, or I want to look at this paper, and then if after a checkup and a test that you're actually allowed to look at it, like a legal checkup, you actually have the right to look at this. So actually this thing has to be there to be potentially public good. And I would understand it as a data management plan that is created at the university from somebody that is employed at the university. This falls under this legal requirement as well. So
okay.
But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody from another Swedish institution can say if it's wrong or if they would understand it differently. But this is how I would think it's.
Anybody else from Sweden wants to comment or has anything to add to this? Lisa says, I agree with Caroline. Lisa Olsen. Okay, so it's not, I mean, DMPonline plans can be shared. So, and they can also be made public. So it's not as if they are locked down. If they belong to a particular researcher, they are locked down. But yes, I can see why the data model wouldn't necessarily suit you, because if a researcher changes institution, in a way, you still need to be able to see the plans that they wrote on your template, right? You still need to be able to download them.
And here, also at University, it's also like this, that when you finish the project, you have to take out you have to take the data management plan and put it in the archive together with all the other papers. Also the plan in any case has to stay with the project. Also, I don't know if the digital version, but at least this version has to be here, so it cannot be totally deleted. And I guess it's also a reason why it's not owned by the researcher. I mean, it's data that belongs to a project that, if it's publicly funded, falls under the open science recommendations.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Can I ask a question? I was going to ask, is there any university, anyone from a university here that has a policy already in place when a researcher is creating a data management plan? They have already steps that the researcher needs to follow, or does anyone already have that kind of pre-creating or explaining how a researcher should create a data management plan? If that makes sense, because that would be interesting if there's already a policy.
Many universities have that, Marta. Yes, they have procedures.
So in the procedures, how are they describing to the researcher? That's what I was asking, because not that formalized here. So there's someone saying that. It's just because that could somehow help the university to have access to that particular document. If it's set up that the researcher by default has to make it shareable with someone on particular straight away, then that could help with the whole ownership of the document, instead of leaving it with the researcher alone to take care of it. So that's why I was trying to understand if there's any policy or any kind of procedures in place that would be a good example to hear from. Sorry, that was my question.
At our institute, we don't have that part formalized yet, so it triggers me also to have that formalized, because we have some procedures for starting a DMP and some requirements, but not for finalizing that. That's usually up to the funders or the local feasibility for human subject data, those kind of procedures, but not a procedure for the DMPonline itself. But it also has something to do with that we're building a network of local data stewards that also can be it can assist the researchers to fill in the plan, and we don't have that network fully covering all departments and all researchers yet. So it's a bit of yeah, the end of the beginning. You know how you say that, but once we have a full-grown network, then we can take the last step in formalizing the whole life cycle of this data management plan. So it's not mandatory for all researchers yet, because we can also not facilitate the writing of the plan for all the researchers. So once we have a funder, are required to build a plan. Once we have the human subject data, have to build a plan. PhD candidates, but there are still some categories of research that don't have a mandatory DMP. But it triggers me to also take this into account and formalize this part.
Yeah, I guess, you know, some institutions have more formalized procedures than others. It depends on the resources available at the institution. But at the moment, I mean, it's interesting to know, at the moment I'm more concerned with addressing your questions about data ownership as they've come to us and how we could facilitate that. Some universities have also asked for data dumps, and at the moment we don't provide data dumps, because once we provide these data dumps, we have no control over where the data ends up. So we're obviously very reluctant to do that. How do you feel about this? We've been asked for data dumps, not just in addition to delete data, which comes head to head with data ownership and the rights of the user, of the researcher, we've been asked for data dumps. And at the moment, we've categorically said no. How do you feel about this? Who wants to comment? Anybody has any strong views on data dumps? Yeah, there have been institutions have said at the end of the contract, I want to download all of my data and I want you to delete it from the database.
But the data stay within the institute.
That's right. So they want to download it from DMPonline, delete it from DMPonline, and keep it in their institution. But I mean, at the moment in the contract, we don't allow for that. In the contract we signed for institutions, but we're not particularly happy about it either because we don't know where the data ends up. Do you feel that is, you know, do you feel that that is not good for the institution, for your institution? Do you feel that that contradicts, you know, your rights? Should we provide data dumps?
Sorry, I had a dog barking. So
don't worry. It's okay. I have a rabbit chewing about.
This was louder. I would say the same answer. Don't allow for data dumps and leave the data for the institute. And if the institute itself want to have data dump for instance, having another tool for data management planning or so, then it's up to the institute. But it's not to it's not up to the individual researcher.
Yeah. Anybody else has a different view from Miriam? Please don't feel timid about this because we need to know how you feel and how you think. We're increasingly being asked for this, and so far we said no because we don't like the idea of people downloading masses of data management plans and putting them where we have no control over where they end up. Okay, since I don't see any comments on that, I'm going to move on, perhaps coming back to more practical matters. Chris's scenario about the user is currently, the researcher is the plan owner and the researcher leaves, and we haven't taken care of the finer details. The researcher leaves and there are no co-owners left at, in this case, University of Manchester. Have you had similar problems? Can you think of similar scenarios? Have you been faced with this? I think that, Lisa?
Well, I think we have that problem with so many documents. So DMPs are just one of the documents we lack when researchers leave. So yes, but we don't. Oh.
Right. So we have to think of some way of leaving, not a trace, but leaving a copy, right, at the institution, making the institution an owner in some way, so the plan is still available. But there are so many different legislations as well, as you've seen in Finland. The researcher is the plan owner, full stop. In the UK is someone more different. Angeliki, you're waving. Oh, you're you're applauding. Sorry, I thought you wanted to say something.
I don't think the technique can fully solve this. I would say that yeah, it's up to the policy, and yeah. For instance, it should be able to include a local data steward or someone else from the department or from the institute. But I agree that the technique from DMPonline could not solve all the issues and all the scenarios for all different countries. But maybe I'm missing something here.
No, it's Angeliki.
Thank you, Diane. Sorry, I wanted to raise my hand, but I was applauding.
You're applauding.
Okay. Applauding was legitimate as well. So I wanted to to say about this topic of the ownership of the data management plans, that actually we've got in the universities, we've got this issue when a researcher leaves the university. What is going to happen to the data? What is going to happen with the various documents that are left behind? So I don't know, I was thinking that similarly with the data management plan. So I was thinking that maybe if there would be a policy actually that the individual schools and departments will have a say on this and step in on this, because research projects are hosted in the individual departments of the university. So if the departments could step in on this issue and take a side and have and make decisions about the projects that accommodate, that will be helpful for the data management plans as well. Because in the libraries, we've got the administration rights of the data management plan. So technically, we can have access to the data management plan, but we cannot make decisions about the plan's ownership. So somehow the university should make these decisions. And I think the most appropriate stakeholder is the department that hosted the whole research project. I don't know, what do you think about it?
Okay, I mean, in some ways, I feel as if it's coming down to data stewards, because I get the impression that's what data stewards are for, you know, managing each area, if not necessarily a departmental level, certainly around about departmental disciplinary level. So you feel that that's where the decisions should be made. It's still, I mean, we can manage plans at departmental level, but it would still be difficult for us to come up with different policies. So DMPonline will, in a way, have to work with the organization. There will still have to be a blanket policy where we decide the institution can retain ownership, and here's how we can do it from a technical point of view. But the decision will probably the management of that, you think, will happen at departmental level, at data stewardship level, if you like.
Yeah, yes, I think that the departments should play a role on the management of the documents derived from the research projects that they host. It could be useful. Okay, it's not something that is feasible and cannot be happen to every department or every university, but the libraries and the platforms like DMPonline can support in a technical side of the things, not so much on the policy and the decision-making part of this issue. So this issue has to do with the decision-making and the policy-making. It's not that the technical aspect that we've got issue with.
Okay, that's fine. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. So I think from a technical point of view, you feel that we're fitting your needs.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Thanks, Angeliki. Thanks, Miriam. Anybody else wants to raise another point on this issue, data ownership? So I'm glad to hear that no data dumps. We agreed with that from the very beginning, and I think we're making that clear in the contract. Anything else? I saw. Okay, I guess if there's if you don't want to add any more points on this, we can do a quick summary and end the meeting. So essentially, from this morning, what we found out about the plan sharing facilities, that you would like some way of downloading both the contributors and the collaborators and including them in the download. We'll have to think about that technicality. And at the moment, you're using the right plan facility to add specific roles. We find that the roles that we have in the contributors bit don't quite suit you anyway. They're either too high level, you want somewhat more specific roles. And we'll look into that. There were some suggestions being put forward by Marta, perhaps use other and enter something else. But yeah, I agree that they shouldn't be entered in the template, because we're asking the researcher essentially to enter the same information twice, and they already have a contributor tab and a plan share tab, and it's possibly getting quite confusing. So we'll look into that. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be in touch with you to suggest a meeting in mid-July. I know it's holiday season, but we feel that the earlier we have the meeting and agree the development priorities for next year, the better. And we also hope to hold a meeting with planners, with funders. It could be around about the same time, mid-July, or we may have to push it further into August. We want to have a closer relationship with funders and to hear what they require from DMPonline. Up until now, it's been pretty much, with the exception of the Dutch funder, has been pretty much, please update the templates. Is there anything we can help you with on that front? Miriam, I see you switched your camera on. Was it because you wanted to say something?
Yeah, not on the topic mentioned, I'm afraid, but is it also possible, maybe for the closing, to pitch a suggestion for the dashboard, or would you say that rather have it by email? Well, as I review many plans and I get many requests for reviewing plans, I struggle with finding plans sometimes from researchers, and I would like to have the owner of the plan also in the dashboard, so I can see who shared the plan with me. So now in my dashboard, I cannot find the plans based on the owner. I have to know the title or any other aspect of the plan to find the plan that is shared with me. So some plans are shared with me, but are not or updated or something. So they are on top of my dashboards, but it's not the plan I'm looking for. Who wants to have the revision that day, something. And
search by owner.
Yeah, maybe instead of the shared, because the shared column is not that relevant for me in my dashboard, but maybe others don't agree on that. But and I agree. I can also, because I'm an admin, I can also search via the plans section in the admin features. But on my dashboard, I would like to find plans based on the owner, so
on the owner,
actual names of the researchers.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good suggestion, and one of our development priorities, but we might not make it this year, I'm afraid, is to develop a proper dashboard for the organments. At the moment, you have lists, but it isn't a proper dashboard, a dashboard where you would go and execute a variety of administrative functions. You have an admin menu and a list of plans that have been shared with you and which you've asked feedback. Whereas in the long run, what you should have is a more developed dashboard where you can see plans by a variety of details, be able to sort them, see whether they've provided feedback or not, and perform other administrative functions on your dashboard, including links to, usage, things like that. Yeah.
But
so
for my daily practice, just finding the plans would be of great use based on the owner of the plans, and not that much the title or something, because I don't know the title up front of from the plans of the researchers. So, but I know the names of the researchers who want to have help. So.
Okay. That is good to know. It should be easy to add. It's essentially an extra column.
Yeah, or replace the shared column with owner or something.
Yeah. That's doable. So we'll look into that. I hope my team took a note of that. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
No, thanks, Miriam. And thank you all for your very good suggestions, and thanks for coming to the meeting and, as ever, being very, very engaged. Sorry for my earlier fumblings with screen sharing. And I hope to see you in mid-July. I don't know whether we'll just come up with a date or send a mini doodle poll. I don't know yet. I'll let you know. Okay, thank you very much.